Okay, let us continue the discussion uh, on the topic of supply. We were discussing in the last class scope of supply, section 7, scope of supply. Within scope of supply, we have discussed section 7, subsection 1, clause A, where consideration is also required and business point of view is also required. Something is supplied just to expand or in the course of business. We have discussed section 7, subsection 1, clause B also in the last class, where when you import some services, consideration is required, whether it is in the nature of business or for your personal purpose, doesn't matter, it is still a supply. And we were discussing in the last class section 7, subsection 1, clause C, where it is clearly mentioned that even if activities are without consideration, but if mentioned in schedule 1 of the CGST Act, those are also treated as supply. So the discussion going on was on activities of schedule 1, and there were 4 activities broadly in schedule 1, but I have discussed in the last class only activity 1, which was what? Permanent disposal of goods or services or both, where ITC has been availed, on such assets. Even if this disposal is without consideration, whether it is in the course of business or not, that is also not written in the act. So it can be personal also, it has nothing to do with us. But ITC has been availed on such assets. This is necessary condition. So when you permanently sell your business assets on which you have already claimed ITC, and now you are supplying it free of cost, no consideration. Now you are supplying it not to expand the business, but in the personal, as personal nature activities, still government says no issue, you have to treat it as supply because ITC you have already availed from us. This is what I have discussed in the last class. And now let me proceed my discussion to my next second activity of schedule 1. Let me first share with you the act, then I will start simplifying the points. This is my second activity. Supply of goods or services or both between related persons. Now this is a new, these are two new words, related persons. I have not listened to such words earlier. If you remember remember our earlier classes, we have not discussed these words, related persons or between distinct persons. This word I have listened as specified in section 25. Yes, distinct persons is written in section 25. When made in the course or furtherance of business. When made in the course or furtherance of business, now it is necessary that this supply must be in the nature of business. As far as my first activity is concerned, whether this permanent disposal of business asset is for the business or not, it was not mentioned. It has to be treated as supply. But to be treated as supply under second activity, it must be in the course, or in the course that means regular business transaction or to expand the business transaction. So let me simplify this second point for you. But before simplifying the second point for you, can you tell me what do you mean by related person? Anyone who can unmute and reply. What do you mean by related persons, or how will we check related person? From where we will check? Can anyone tell me this? Related persons.
So from Income Tax Act.
No. Anyone who can throw some light that from where I should check the definition, or from where I will find the meaning of this these two words, related persons, because act says supply of goods or services or both between related persons. So I must know who are these related persons. Anyone who can unmute and reply from where I should check, how I should check. Anyone who can think and try to tell me from where I should check this related persons. I have told you that always you should check that respective section which you are reading. So I am reading schedule 1, and in schedule 1 related persons is not defined. Now schedule 1 is used in section 7. So when I go to section 7, there also related person is not defined. Then I will go to section 2 of this act, because section 2 is having all the definitions. There also related persons is not defined. Then I have to search entire CGST Act. And yes, I will find that related persons is defined under section 15 of the CGST Act. Had it not been defined in the entire CGST Act, then I would have taken the definition from other acts. But right now, since it is defined in section, one of the section of CGST Act, I have to use that definition. So let me show you now section 15. So you must know how you should prepare your reports in case in future you are given a job to prepare some reports of higher level, that you cannot vaguely write anything. You must know the sequence of writing. First check that respective section. If not given, check section number 2 of that act where you are having all the definitions. If not given, then read the entire act and try to find. If not given, then you go into the arena of other acts. But you cannot cross this act without reading the entire act. So let me share now section 25, and you will find this definition there. Not section 25, section 15. Now heading of section 15 is value of taxable supply. This we will do later on. This is the value on which we have to pay GST. So it is like calculation of net taxable income under Income Tax Act. It is like calculating net taxable income under Income Tax Act. So whatever is net taxable income under Income Tax Act, same thing is the value under GST Act, because on this we will compute GST. Now you read the explanation of section 15. This is the explanation of section 15 and what it says. This is the explanation of section 15. 215. For the purposes of this act, clause A, persons shall be deemed to be related persons. This is how we will check the definition of related persons. Persons shall be deemed to be related persons if such persons are officers of or directors of one another's business. Such persons are legally recognized partners in the business. Such persons are employer and employee. Any person directly or indirectly owns, controls, or holds 25% of or more of the outstanding voting stock or shares of both of them. One of them directly or indirectly controls the other. So these are so many examples technically. Both of them are directly or indirectly controlled by third person. Together they directly or indirectly control third person, and they are members of same family. That's it. This is what the meaning of persons is. So now let me try to simplify this for you, so that you can understand it carefully, clearly, so that you can understand it clearly. Now, so scope of supply is continuing. Precisely section 7 is continuing, and within section 7, more precisely, what is continuing is section 7, 1C, and schedule 1 activities. Within schedule 1, I have already covered with you in the last class. First activity, permanent disposal of business assets, where ITC has been claimed, availed on such business assets. Now, what is my activity 2? Now, what is my activity 2? Supply of goods or services or both or both, even without consideration. Even without consideration, but in the course or furtherance of business, this line course or furtherance of business was missing in activity 1, but now it is there. In the course of or furtherance of business, between whom? Between whom? Between whom? Related persons. Where related persons are defined? Explanation to section 15. Or distinct persons. And distinct persons are mentioned where? Now, it may be mentioned anywhere, but the activity to itself says that distinct persons as defined in section 25. Now, if you remember section 25, there are two types of distinct persons defined in section 25, which we have already covered in detail. One is specifically distinct persons. (25) subsection 4, and another is known as establishment of distinct persons. Section 25(5). I hope this structure is clear to you. Now, what is my first job? My first job is to make sure that you know what is related persons. So one thing is sure, if these two are related persons, whatever is supplied, and if this another person has not even given any consideration, so there is no consideration, but whatever is supplied, if it is in the nature of business, then you cannot say that it is not a supply. Act says it should be treated as supply. So it is necessary for us to know who are related persons. So let me first define, or let me explain that definition which is given in the act. Let me discuss this with the help of examples. Now my first is what? When two persons are, when the persons are officers or directors of one another's business, are officers, oblique director of one another's business. Now, for example, X limited, Y limited, or let us assume X is the owner of sole proprietorship and Y is the owner. The name of their shop is X and Sons, Y and Daughters. This is the shop's name. Now, Y is the director in this business. Y is the director, and X is the Y is the director here, and X is the director in Y's business. So government says it means what? Technically, you are related persons. One is doing job in your company at a high position, you are doing job in another company at a high position, so you are nothing. But don't try to evade the taxes. You cannot evade the taxes because of this work. Because being a director, you can easily ask for supply of goods or services in your company. And you cannot take the plea that you will not pay the tax. So that is why government says X and Y are related persons. So whenever anything happens between X and Y, as far as supply of goods and services is concerned, even without consideration, but in the nature of business, it has to be treated as supply. This is my first point. Second point was when these are partners. For example, X and company is a partnership firm, a firm where you are having two partners, K, L. So K and L are what? Related persons. So anything, any supply happens between K and L, even without consideration, is what? Supply. Third, when they are employer-employee. Example, SRCC and Naveen, these two are what? Related person. Any supply of goods or services happen between these two, even if without consideration. But in the course of business, it should be treated as supply, GST is payable. However, there is an exception between these two, employer-employee, there is an exception. What is that exception? Supply of value of gift till 50,000 per year is not supply. Is not supply. But supply of value of gift 50,000 or more per year, that has to be treated as supply in any case. So only one exception is there. Next point. So these are the examples. You can be having a numerical. There can be 5 or 6 marks numerical, and they will ask whether it is a supply or no. So you have to think that yes, these are related person, even if no consideration, but in the business, so it will be supply. So this is how the questions are framed. Fourth, one person is holding or controlling, whatever is the case, at least 25% shares or voting power. At least 25% of voting power oblique shares of another person. Another person. So this is the example.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, can you go to the previous slide one?
Yeah, please.
Thank you, sir.
X Limited is having 30%. X Limited is having 30% shares of Y Limited. So in this case, X Limited and Y Limited becomes related person. Any supply between these two will be supply, provided It is for business. One person controls another person. Now, as far as controlling is concerned, it is not mentioned in what context he or she can control, or what concerns the company itself can control. Controlling can be through occupying the higher position, controlling can be through occupying the share capital, but percentage of shares are also not mentioned. Only the word controlling is written, so it opens the area. It basically invites litigation now, because department will try to put the transactions in such a way that it looks like controlling. The person who are not interested in treating it as supply will explain their point of view in the court in such a way that it doesn't look like controlling. So it is a gray area. Only controlling is written. That, for example, X Limited controls Y Limited, but is not mentioned what is the way of controlling, how. So there can be any reason for this. So these two are also what related persons. So in the act, that is why litigation happens, because so many times we have gray area. When these two people controls a third person, X Limited, Y Limited, K Limited. X Limited controls K Limited, Y Limited controls K Limited. It means X Limited and Y Limited are related persons. Under this point, X Limited and Y Limited are related persons. So supply will be supply. So these are related persons as per point 6. But X Limited and K Limited are also related. In the same example, X Limited and K Limited are also related. But do you know under which point? Can you tell me under which point these will be related? Under point 5. In the same example, Y Limited and K Limited are also related. But do you know under which point they are related? This is what you should try to understand under point 5. But in the present example, X, had there been no point 6, X and Y could not have been treated as related. Had there been no point 6, X and Y could not have been treated as related. That is why it was necessary to add point number 6. That when these any two person control a third person, these two are also treated as related persons. I hope the discussion is clear. Next point. Now, next point. Now, yes.
Sir, can you explain fifth point once again, sir?
The voice is not clear.
Sir, I had some network issues in between.
Which point you want to listen again? Point 5 or 6?
Point 5, sir.
Point 5. When one person controls, in point 5, when one person controls another person, that's it. So these two are related persons. One person controls another, that's it. And what is point 6? In this case, one person is having more than 25% voting power of another concern. What was 6 point? Two persons control a third person. So these two are related. And now 7th is reverse of 6th, where one person controls these two. In the 6th example, two person controls one person. Now in the 7th example, these two are being controlled by a third person. Still, it makes these two related. So B and C are related as per point 7. Because in 7 point, they are being controlled by the third person. In 6 point, these two are together controlling the third person. So in 7th point, what is happening? These two persons are being controlled. By a third person. And last, when these people are members of the same family. When these people are members of the same family, like father, for example, father, son, supply. That's it. This is what section 20, section explanation to section 15. I simply wanted to explain these are related person, and any supply which happens between these in the nature of business but without consideration will also be treated as supply. I hope the point is clear. If yes, please raise your hand. Okay, great. Now next, let me proceed. For the time being, I have discussed only related. Now there is a need to discuss supply between distinct person. Okay. For the time being, I have discussed only related person. Now the turn is to discuss with you supply between these distinct person and supply between 5 distinct persons. So it is the next point. Supply between related is covered. Supply between related is covered. And now supply between distinct will start. Now within distinct, let us discuss one by one. So supply between distinct persons which are defined under section 25(4). Can anyone tell me who are covered in 25(4)? Anyone who can think and decide? If you remember, we have discussed it around 7 to 8 days ago, I think. 25 subsection 4, procedure for registration. Can you tell me who are distinct persons under section 25(4)? Anyone who can tell me? Who are distinct persons under section 25(4)? Anyone who can tell me? Try to think and tell me who are distinct persons under section 25(4), because it is necessary that you also start learning the concepts. So who are distinct persons under section 25(4)? Anyone who can give an idea, rough idea. Otherwise, I will of course tell you, but first let me see whether you remember this point or not. If you don't remember, it shows that you need to work hard. If you remember, then also it's better. So can you tell me who are distinct persons? I have discussed this when we have covered section 25, subsection 4. Who are distinct persons? Distinct persons are when a person, for example, X Limited, has a factory in Delhi which is registered, has another factory, X Limited has another factory or retail showroom, anything can be there, in Haryana, for example. So I want to change this state, and that is also registered. So these two are what? Distinct persons. When the same person is having two registrations, whether in the same state or another state, these people are known as distinct person. So X Limited's factory of Delhi is distinct person, and X Limited retail showroom in Haryana is both are distinct persons. So any supply which happens between these two, even if without consideration but in the course of business, is treated as supply for the purpose of section 7 subsection 1 clause C, on which GST will be applicable. So this is my first example. Now, change of state is not necessary even if X Limited has a factory in Delhi registered, has another retail showroom in Delhi itself, factory as well as showroom in Delhi, but separately registered. Then also, these two are what? Distinct person. So the factory cannot say that I have not charged anything from my showroom. These jeans or these products are simply sent to the showroom for further sale. Government says no, since you have taken separate registration, pay GST. It has to be treated as supply even if without consideration. That's it. This is what 25.4. Now what is 25.5? Supply between distinct establishment of distinct persons. 25.5 is not the section of entire supply between this. 25.5 is only the relevant for these four words. Similarly, this 25.4 is only for distinct. If you supply between distinct person is not section 25.4. 25.4 simply talks about who are distinct person. That's it. 25.5 gives an example of establishment of distinct person. Can you tell me if you remember what is 25.5? X Limited factory in Delhi registered X Limited factory Delhi registered another factory Punjab. मैं फैक्ट्री बनाता हूँ या घर बन जाता है हमेशा? फैक्ट्री X Limited Punjab not registered, still, because in 25.5 one establishment must be registered. It does not matter whether another establishment is registered or not. This Punjab factory can be registered or unregistered, doesn't matter. Still, these two are also known as establishment of distinct person. Any supply which happens between these two is treated as supply. So what is the difference in 25.4 and 25.5? In 25.4, registration is mandatory. States can be same or another. If you see 25.4 versus 25.5, so the main point is what? Here I use the word distinct persons. In 25.5, I use the word establishment of distinct persons. This is one thing. Second point, here registration is must. Here registration in respect of one establishment is must, but second can be unregistered, no problem. Second can be unregistered or registered, doesn't matter. Here for both 1 and 2, for both offices or factories, registration is must. Third, same state oblique different state, both situations are covered. Here states must be different. These are the two main changes of 25.4 and 25.5. I hope the concept is clear. Please raise your hand if you want me to proceed. Okay, don't raise the hand. I have to proceed. Now, let me discuss now third activity. So let me share again the act with you. Now, this is my third activity of schedule 1. Supply of goods. Carefully read supply of goods. That means services are not covered, only supply of goods. Clause A. By a principal to his agent when the agent undertakes to supply such goods on behalf of the principal. So here supply is happening from principal to agent. Or clause B. Supply of goods by the agent to the principal. Now in clause B, supply will happen from agent to principal. So in first point, the chain is principal agent to agent, principal to agent. In second, the chain is agent to principal. In second, the chain is reverse, agent to principal, where the agent undertakes to receive such goods on behalf of the principal. Let me try to simplify this point for you. So let me try to simplify this point for you. And this is the last point. After this, we will wind up today's discussion. Activity 3. So, supply of goods is necessary, not services. This is main thing which you should remember always. So, goods, even without consideration, and whether in the course of business or not, that is not mentioned. So, I am not thinking in that direction. Now, before discussing these, you must know that always someone is principal and one person can become the agent. So, agent is that person who acts on behalf of the principal. This is what the concept is. Mr. A, Mr. B. So, agent can do both the things. What agent can do? Like if Mr. A has appointed Mr. B, that A says that, what A is saying in his mind, A says that, A says to B that you will supply some goods on my behalf to another person. This is third party. Principal says, I do not know to whom you sell, but you have to sell it on my behalf. So A will give the instructions like you sell to that who will give maximum price, or A can also say to B that sell only to Mr. K. So whatever is the instruction that is given by A, B has no role to play in this. As an agent, my job is to simply follow the instructions of my principal, and to follow that instruction I will get some commission, that's it. Otherwise I have no role. But when you say agent is acting on behalf of the principal, how do you make sure I'm acting on behalf? If goods are supplied, for example, goods of 50 lakh are supplied to agent, and A said that you supply it to Mr. K. So when A will issue the tax invoice or A will issue the bill or tax invoice, whatever is the concept, This bill, suppose if this is the bill, then the name of principal will be written. Heading is always the person who is the supplier, to whom it is sold, to agent. That's it. I hope the point is clear. Now these goods will go to B. When B supplies to K, do you know what bill B will issue? If B is issuing the bill which is having agent's name, B's own name, to Mr. K, then it is known as acting on behalf of the principal. That means agent has full authority to just act like principal. But if the bill issued by the agent, on that bill heading is the name of the principal, then to Mr. K, then you should not say that I am the agent. You are only the commission agent then. Otherwise, you have no power. When the invoice is issued in the name of the principal, in spite of being you the agent of the principal, then what power you have? You are nothing but only a commission agent in that case. Agent in the true sense means you have all the powers of the principal. You are selling the goods on the instruction of the principal, but while selling, the invoice is having your name on the top. Only your name. That means you are supplying the goods, not the principal. It is between principal and agent only that you know that you are the agent. Otherwise, when you issue the bill in your own name, then you become the supplier technically. So this is necessary to check. Whenever any supply of goods happens from principal to agent, where agent further undertakes to supply the goods on behalf of his principal, then in that case, so technically there are two chains happening here. Two chains are happening. First, the goods are supplied from principal to agent. This is chain 1. And second chain is from agent to third party. So two chains are happening. These are the supply chains, you can say. Two things are happening simultaneously. Principal to agent, agent to third party. I am only talking about principal to agent because agent to third party is by default a supply. There is no question because these two are totally unrelated. So it's a supply. Only tax evasion could have come that the agent and principal could have said that agent is not giving me any money. I am simply supplying the goods without consideration. So why it should be a supply? So only confusion could have come between principal and agent whether this should be treated as supply or not. There is no question about agent and third party supply. That is of course by default a supply. But as far as principal agent is concerned, that is the only conflicting point which could have arisen and which has been tackled under activity 3, that whenever the goods are supplied by the principal, whenever the goods are supplied by the principal to agent, another condition is where the agent undertakes to supply such goods further, undertakes to supply such goods on behalf of the principal. By the principal to agent, and where agent undertakes to supply such goods on behalf of the principal. So what do I mean by behalf of the principal? This is the main question. What do I mean by behalf of the principal? Can you tell me what do you mean by behalf? When agent has the power, it means what? Agent can issue the bill in his own name. Agent can issue the bill in his own name. Then you say that it is on behalf of the principal. If agent is issuing the bill in the name of the principal, then government says this agent is nothing but a commission agent. So this clause will not come into picture. This is the only point. So supply between principal to agent, that means this 50 lakh is supply. It is to be treated as supply. Now reverse case can also happen. Now in this case, principal is the supplier. It is also possible that principal has appointed the agent to receive the goods, not to supply. Principal says that receive the goods from K and give it to me. So reverse can also happen. I hope you are getting my point. Agent can act as a supplier. Agent can act as a receiver also. In the earlier example, agent was the supplier. Now agent is receiving the goods on behalf of his principal. So the next point is what? Supply of goods by the agent to the principal. By the agent to the principal, where the agent undertakes rather than supply, now I will use the word to receive such goods on behalf of the principal. So in this case also, when agent, while issuing the bill to the principal, or when agent, while receiving the quantity or goods from K, will ask K that write my name as receiver. In this case, agent will say that to K that in the above name of K will be written and to the name of agent and not the principal directly. Then you say that yes, you are the true agent, you have full authority to act on behalf of the principal. Then also the supply between agent and principal. Again, I'm not discussing about supply between agent and third party, whether as a supplier or as the recipient, because that is by default supply. The only issue is supply between principal and agent. That means this supply. This is also treated as supply by the agent to the principal. That means if there are two people, principal and agent, what do I mean by on behalf? This is the main point. What do I mean by on behalf? When you say that agent is acting on behalf, that means agent has the authority to issue bill in his own name, not in principal's name. When agent was acting as supplier, he can issue the bill in his own name. Similarly, when agent is acting as receiver, then agent has the power to receive bill in his own name. To receive bill in his own name. To receive bill in his own name when agent is acting as a recipient. When agent is acting as a recipient. In that case, you say that it is the true meaning on behalf of the principal. And in that case, whether supply happens from this side or whether supply happens from this side, because when it happens from this side, it is the supply, and when it happens from this side, it is just like agent is acting as a recipient. So agent is acting as a supplier when supply is from principal to agent. Agent is acting as a recipient when supply is from agent to principal. In both the cases, it will be treated as supply. On behalf of the principal means agent has the authority to issue or to receive bill in his own name. So what is happening? Principal, agent, third party. So now the chain is this. First, now agent is acting as a supplier now. So first supply from principal to agent. So of course bill will be issued. जब भी आप कोई सामान खरीदते हैं, when you purchase anything, you get a bill. So this bill always on the top side. Suppose you are purchasing something from Tata, so the name of Tata will be written. Two, so customer's name. So who is the customer? Agent. And who is the Tata? For example, principal. Then in this case, you can say yes, agent is acting on behalf of the principal because agent is receiving the bill in his own name from the principal, and when agent will further supply, agent will write not the name of Tata, no, agent will write his own name and customer's name will be third party. It is true on behalf, it is the meaning. So in that case, this supply is treated as supply even if no consideration. Similarly, when principal, agent, third party, now principal acts as a recipient. Now principal is acting as what? Recipient. Now the flow is from this side. Now when A will receive the goods as agent, so in the bill, owner is third party, and if in the customer to principal is written, then don't say that you are true agent. The name should be agent. That means agent has the power to receive the bill in his own name. In that case, this is also treated as supply. And if bills are issued or received in the name of principal and not the agent, if bills are issued or received in the name of principal and not the agent, then my case is not, then case is not covered under section 7(1)(c) paragraph 3, because paragraph 3 talks about principal and supply. So then if agent has not the authority to supply the bill in his own name and to receive the bill in his own name, still I'm not saying that it is not treated as supply, but it will not be covered under section 7(1)(c) paragraph 3. It will not be covered under 7(1)(c) paragraph 3. It can still be supply provided other conditions are satisfied then. I hope you remember, I hope you have understood this point. If you want to be covered as a principal agent under section 7 subsection 1 clause C paragraph 3, then the necessary condition is that as an agent you have the full authority to issue the bill in own name when you are a further supplier and to receive the bill in your own name when you are a recipient. In case you don't have the authority, suppose principal says that to your agent that you supply the goods to the third party, but don't issue the bill in your own name, issue the bill in the name of principal, my name, then you are only commission agent, not the true agent, which is covered under paragraph 3. So what I'm saying is that when bills are not issued, if bills are not issued or if bills are not received in the name of agent, I'm saying that supply between principal and agent, principal to agent or agent to principal, cannot be covered. I'm simply using this word. Do remember, cannot be covered under 7(1)(c) paragraph 3. But I am not saying that it is not treated as supply, because if it is not covered under 7(1)(c), it does not mean that you will take a decision that it is not a supply. You have other sections also. What section you have? You have section 7(1)(a), where what are the conditions? That consideration is also required and business is also required. So I can say that if bills are not issued in the name of the agent, bills are not received in the name of the agent, still it can be supply, but in that case consideration is must. In that case consideration is must. So technically I have discussed these 2 points. And third is what? Bill not in agent name. Further, no consideration, then you can say that it is not a supply. No consideration, then the decision is anything which is happening between principal agent whether this side, then it is not a supply. Because it is not covered under 7.1c as well as it is not covered under 7.1a. If the point is clear, please raise your hand. In case you have not understood this, you have to listen the recording again. Otherwise, please raise your hand if you have understood this technical point of principal and agent. It is little bit technical, of course. Okay, so you have to work hard in case you have not understood. It will take a little bit of time. And when you see the recording, I'm sure you will 100% get a clarity on this point, and you can challenge this point in front of any other persons who have not understood principal agent. Anyhow, so that's all from my side. Goodbye, and let us meet in the next class.